Okay, guys, today we're working on images, but not just dropping random pictures on a page. We're doing this the professional way. So that means we've got to have correct file paths, we've got to have proper sizing, and we'll do that using our CSS file, and we have to have the accessibility using alternate text or alt text. So by the end of this lesson, your images should load correctly, resize properly, and be accessible. They should look clean and they should be intentional. So let's get started. Step one is to add an image the right way. And images are added using the IMG tag. There are two critical parts to that: SRC, which is where the image is located. So if you look at that first image we've already added, mine is tagged image. Source is Grandma Propes, which is the file name over here in my files. And alt is the text that will show if the image is broken or that screen readers can read. So I'm going to start by doing this inside of my HTML file, and I'm going to do mine in biography. You might decide that you want to add a gallery page to your website, and that's okay. For today, I'm just going to do mine in biography. So I'm going to add some images here to the biography. Mine does not look the way y'all's does, right? Because we're just not. It doesn't look that way, right? Because we're doing different things. So my biography page looks like this. My career page looks like this. My home page still has my biography and my career section on it. But I'm going to go into my biography HTML, and I'm going to add the two new images that I need to add today to my web page. So the first thing I'm going to do, though, is under the heading for Grandma Propes, I am going to, under the heading, which says Grandma Propes, I am going to add a section and a class. And I'm going to call it the image section. Now, what this does is it lets me add some images, and then I can go back in and I can, in CSS, I can style those images. All right, first thing I've got to do, though, is I've got to add my files that I want to add, and I'm going to upload those. So I just went out on the internet and found a picture of my dad and my papa. So I'm going to add those, and you can see one's called dad.jpg and one's called papadan.jpg. So I go back into my biography page. Now I'm going to add these images into my biography. Image source, sorry. So IMG SRC equals, and then it's got to be spelled exactly the way it is over here. So that's a capital P, A, P, A, W, and a space, and .jpg. I don't think that's going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename it, and I'm going to take that space out, and I'm going to take it out in here as well. Okay. You also, I'm just not doing too good this morning, guys. So you also have to have quotation marks around your images. So let's try that again. Let's try that one more time. All right, image, IMG is our tag. SRC means where do I look for it? And you set that equal to the image name. And you have to make sure you include that .jpg at the end, and it needs to be surrounded by quotation marks. And what you're putting right here inside the quotation marks needs to match exactly what's on your file. Now, mine didn't save, so I'm going to try that again to take that space out. Now it looks like maybe it did. Okay, so once you've got that correct, Then you put your alt text and you put it equal sign, and then inside quotation marks, you put your alternate text. And I'm just going to put Papaldan in uniform. He was in the Army, and he did serve in World War II. All right, now that's the end of your image for the biography page for right now. So let's see if this works. And yep, there it is. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add another image of my dad. And I'm doing all the same things. The file name has to match exactly. It has to be inside quotes. It has to end with the correct extension. And he was the, let's see, 4th of 5 children. Okay, so now if I run that again, we should also see a photo of my dad on the biography page, and there they are. So we have one really small photo of Papaldan and one pretty big photo of my dad. So here's some things though that you need to notice. This is what we have to make sure we do. The file path is the photo name .jpg. That means there is a folder or there's a file and it's over here. Now what you can do also is, if you want to get fancy, you could add a folder. We could name that images, and we could move all of those photos into that images folder. But what's going to happen is that you have to make sure that you fix the file name, because if I run it right now, look, Grandma Probst with some of her family. That image is broken. Papaldan in uniform. Wendell Probst is the 4th of 5 children. Those images are now broken because I've moved the location of it. So you have to make sure that if you decide that you want to change and have all your images in a folder, which I don't think is a terrible idea, it's still going to be broken on the home page because I haven't fixed that one yet, but they should show up now on the biography page, which they do. So because I am who I am, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to fix the one on the home page too. It just means whatever you name the folder to put your images in, you just add that name and then a backslash in front of the file name. And now everything should work correctly again, and it does. So there's a folder named images, and we have our Grandma Probst, our Papaldan, and our dad photo in there. So if your image isn't loading correctly, you need to check the folder name and the file name and make sure that everything is spelled correctly. No spaces where there aren't supposed to be spaces, capital letters where they're supposed to be, so on and so forth. Everything needs to match exactly. And then if that is all right, you need to check the extensions. So now you need to pause the video and go ahead and add your images into your HTML files. Now that you've done that, why does the alt text matter? We've talked about this before. Screen readers use it. It appears if the image doesn't load, and it improves accessibility. Bad alternate text would just say photo. Good alternate text might say something like portrait of the artist performing on stage, or image of the artist performing on stage. You got to make that meaningful. Step 3 is we need to fix our giant images, and we're going to do this in CSS. We want all of our images to pretty much load the same way. So you're going to go into your styles in CSS, and that's where we control the sizing. So I'm going to go all the way down here to the bottom of my styles sheet, and I'm going to type dot image section, IMG, and then I'm going to say max width is 100%. So that means the width of your photo won't be bigger than your screen. So that works on all of your screen sizes. So if you're somebody opening this up on a phone or a tablet, it's going to automatically adjust that based on the screen size. And then we're going to set the height to auto. So we have on our image section, which remember on the biography page is where we put the image section. We don't have that on the homepage, or I didn't go back in and add it. You might have. So now that should fix what's happening with your images. So the max width at 100% prevents the image from overflowing the size of the screen, so you don't have to scroll back and forth down here. And keeping the height at auto keeps the proportions correct so that it doesn't stretch the image out, you know, like top to bottom or left to right. So now if we run this again and we look, my images are the same because they weren't overflowing. But some of y'all had some huge images on your pages, so that should help that. So that combination is the safest way and the most common way that we do image rules in web design. So make sure you pause and run your code and make sure that if you had an image that was overflowing or super huge on the page, now it should have automatically scaled that down. All right, now we're going to just add a few intentional things to make it look more professional, to make your images look more professional. We've already done our max width and our height. So let's add a border around our photographs. We're going to say border radius. That means how big is it going to be, and it's going to be 12 pixels. Don't forget your semicolons at the end. And we want to add a margin to this as well of 20 pixels, 0. So the border softens, the border radius softens the corners. And so I said it's how big it is. I lied. It's how round the corners of this are going to be. Small CSS changes make a huge difference. Okay, so now we're going to do that. Let's look at our biography page. Mine doesn't seem to have loaded properly. So let's see what happened there. Okay, guys, I figured out what I was doing wrong. So down here, we've got .image dash section, and that is not matching exactly what I had in the biography page. So I need to go in and I need to change that section class equals image dash section so that it matches exactly my CSS. So now when I run this, you can see that it added the border and it added the rounding of the corners. Now we don't have to, I added that in after I started looking to see what was wrong. You don't have to have a border color for it to do the rounding of the corners. So let me show you that. You can see how those corners are rounded even without the hot pink border around them. Okay, so back to how we're going to finish out our pictures. We can add a caption by placing a paragraph under the image. So back in your HTML file, wherever that is, wherever you've added your images, you're going to just go back in under that image, not above it, favor, under it, and we're going to add a paragraph tag. And you can say something like, this is Papa Dan, he was Grandma Propst's husband. Okay. So captions are pretty simple. Okay. Um, and so now if we look, we have, this is Papa Dan, he was Grandma Propst's husband. Now, we probably want to style that a little bit. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to make this a P class equals caption. Make sure you put that inside quotation marks. And so I can now go to my styles in my CSS, and in a different selector, I can just say caption, dot caption, and my open and close, and I can say font size is going to be 14 pixels, and I can say the color is going to be light gray. Actually, I'm going to do light blue. And then I can say margin bottom is going to be 25 pixels. So now if I do that, you can't see the light blue caption. So let's make that something else. There it is. So now you can see that it's putting a little bit of space between the caption and Dad's photo. Okay. Now, an optional thing that you can do is you can add some more stuff to it, like figure and figure caption. But if you do that, you need to go to your W3 schools and look that up. Today, you're going to be adding 2 images, using meaningful alternate text, fix your sizing, and add spacing or border radius for polish. Once you do all that and your images load properly, then you can request your sign off. Have fun.